the silent halt. Every sunrise you have ever seen exists simply because Earth never stops falling sideways. For over 4 billion years, our 93 million-mile cushion from the Sun's white-hot core has been guaranteed by a single, silent mechanism: speed. Moving through the vacuum at nearly 67,000 miles an hour, Earth drops toward the solar inferno every single second, but its sideways velocity causes it to continuously miss the star. It is an unbroken cosmic fall coupled with an eternal sideways drift. Now, imagine an impossible cosmic anomaly. A sudden event that strips away only Earth's sideways orbital momentum, leaving its daily rotation, atmosphere, and the rest of the solar system completely intact. There is no violent shockwave, no loud crash. Down on the surface, you wouldn't instantly fly into a wall or watch the ocean sweep across continents. The change is completely silent. The planet continues its endless 24-hour spin. But out in the cold stillness of space, the invisible geometric track that kept our world safe has vanished. Earth is no longer orbiting. It is suspended in the dark. And then it begins to fall. To understand why a world plunges when its forward momentum dies, look to the physics outlined by Isaac Newton. If you fire a cannonball horizontally from a high mountain, gravity pulls it down toward the dirt. Fire it faster, and its path stretches further across the horizon. If you fire it fast enough, at roughly 17,500 miles an hour, the curve of its fall matches the natural curvature of the Earth itself. The cannonball keeps falling, but the ground continuously drops away beneath it. It enters orbit. Centuries later, Albert Einstein expanded on this framework by showing that gravity can be understood as the curvature of space-time. Heavy objects like the Sun bend the geometry around them. Imagine a marble rolling along the inside slope of a curved funnel. As long as the marble rolls sideways fast enough, its forward momentum carries it around the slope in a continuous loop. It is perpetually falling toward the center, but its sideways speed keeps it from ever touching the bottom. When that sideways speed drops to zero, the marble stops rolling around the rim. It slides straight down the slope. In space, that center is the inferno of the Sun. Without its 67,000-mile-an-hour orbital speed, Earth begins a straight, unyielding plunge into its parent star. Gravity does not suddenly become overwhelmingly strong overnight. Instead, it applies a steady, continuous acceleration that causes Earth's downward velocity to build continuously over time. On the very first day, an observer in space would barely notice Earth moving at all. It takes 24 hours for the planet to fall just a few thousand miles. A microscopic distance on a cosmic scale. Someone standing on the ground wouldn't see the Sun looking any larger in the sky. As for the Moon, because it orbits Earth at a distance of about 240,000 miles, it remains bound to our planet by localized gravity. As Earth begins its descent toward the Sun, the Moon continues its monthly circuit around us. Over time, as both worlds drop deeper into the solar gravitational field, the Sun's tidal forces would gradually begin altering the Moon's orbital path, slowly disrupting ocean tides down on the ground. Day by day, as Earth falls closer to the Sun, the gravitational pull strengthens according to the inverse square law, accelerating the descent. What begins as an imperceptible drift gradually turns into a rapid plunge through the void. Applying the physics of radial freefall trajectories, orbital calculations show it will take roughly 64 days for Earth to complete its journey to the solar surface. 64 days. That long timeline is what makes the scenario so eerie. The world wouldn't end in a single second. It is a slow 2-month journey through changing environments of light, heat, and space. As Earth falls closer, solar radiation will steadily intensify. The atmosphere will warm, weather circulation will shift, and the oceans will react to changing gravitational forces. Right now, the planet is only at the beginning of its fall. The first week is quiet, and the sky above looks almost normal. But the journey toward the fire has already begun. For the first few days after the orbit halts, human life carries on with eerie normalcy. In cities across the world, people wake up, brew coffee, and step outside into the morning air. Commuter trains run on time. Streets fill with traffic. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west because Earth continues its daily rotation. Look up through a backyard telescope, and the solar disk appears completely unchanged. Subtle errors, however, quickly begin to ripple through our technological infrastructure. Global positioning system satellites, orbiting high above Earth, rely on precise orbital models to map coordinates on the ground. Because Earth is no longer following its expected annual trajectory around the Sun, satellite ephemeris calculations fall out of sync. Navigation systems in cars, aircraft, and commercial shipping begin displaying unexpected location errors. In astronomical observatories, scientists initially suspect software bugs or sensor calibration failures. Automated optical telescopes tracking distant asteroids register an impossible trend. Background stars are no longer drifting across the field of view as Earth moves along its annual path. For nearly 3 days, researchers double-check equipment, run diagnostic tests, and debate whether a solar storm has blinded deep space sensors. Only when independent radio observatories across multiple continents confirm identical anomalies does the staggering reality settle in. Astronomers do not rush to television studios with dramatic declarations. Instead, raw data is shared urgently through secure internal networks, while national science agencies hold quiet, emergency briefings with government officials. When news outlets finally broadcast the confirmation, the announcement is framed by profound uncertainty. Earth has lost its sideways momentum and is in a direct gravitational descent toward the Sun. People walk outside and look at a sky that looks entirely peaceful. By the end of the first week, Earth has covered roughly 2 million miles of its 93 million mile descent. Because the speed of a free-falling body increases continuously under constant acceleration, the planet moves faster with every passing hour. Sunlight obeys the inverse square law. As Earth's distance from the Sun decreases to 91 million miles, the intensity of solar radiation hitting the upper atmosphere increases by roughly 4 to 5%. A 4% increase in solar energy is not an immediate global climate apocalypse, because the oceans and atmosphere possess vast thermal inertia. But localized weather patterns begin to show measurable disruptions. In the Midwestern United States, a farmer walking through his fields finds soil moisture evaporating faster than normal under a bright morning glare. In the Swiss Alps, glaciologists record an unseasonal surge of meltwater rushing down riverbeds that should be frozen solid. Atmospheric circulation reacts to the gradual heating. Earth's weather is driven primarily by the temperature difference between the warm equator and the freezing poles. As the planet warms, this temperature gradient begins to shift, causing high-altitude jet streams to show measurable disruptions in their normal flow. By the second week of the descent, Earth has fallen nearly 6 million miles inward. The Sun is now visibly wider in the sky. During sunset, as the solar disk rests on the horizon, its apparent diameter appears roughly 6% larger to anyone who pauses to look. Sunlight carries roughly 13% more thermal energy than it did before the fall began, casting harsh shadows and raising global surface temperatures. In major urban centers like Tokyo, Mumbai, and New York, power grids face heavy stress as cooling systems run continuously. Electrical transformers overheat, leading to localized blackouts. Biological systems react in complex ways. while plant growth and bird migrations are largely triggered by day length, which remains unchanged because Earth is still spinning on its axis. The unseasonable warmth begins to stress ecosystems. Trees in temperate forests shed leaves early to conserve moisture, while warming surface waters in the oceans reduce dissolved oxygen levels, driving marine life deeper into cooler water layers. By the third week, Earth has covered over 12 million miles toward the Sun. The distance between our world and its star has shrunk to 81 million miles. Solar radiation striking the upper atmosphere is now roughly 31% higher than normal. The sky itself shifts in appearance. Increased water vapor and dust suspended in warm air currents scatter sunlight, turning afternoon skies a pale, milky tone. At sunset, the horizon glows with a deep, dusty amber that lingers long after twilight. Tidal forces from the Sun grow stronger as Earth drops closer, gradually interfering with the Moon's gravitational influence. Coastal regions experience unusually high tides that flood low-lying docks and harbor roads during calm weather. At major airports, afternoon flight schedules face delays. Hot air is less dense than cool air, which reduces both aerodynamic wing lift and jet engine performance. Heavy cargo aircraft are forced to reduce payload weight or wait for the cooler hours of early morning to take off. Humanity is still living through the early phase of the descent. Gravity accelerates Earth's downward velocity with every passing mile. Over the next 3 weeks, the slow drift will turn into a rapid plunge. The oceans will begin to steam, the atmosphere will swell, and the sky will transform into a blinding furnace. The world has survived 3 weeks of falling. 43 days remain. The boiled skies. By the 4th week of the descent, the illusion of ordinary life has vanished. Earth has covered nearly 20 million miles of its inward plunge, reducing the distance to the Sun to roughly 73 million miles. Under the unyielding physics of the inverse square law, the intensity of solar radiation reaching our upper atmosphere has surged to over 60% above pre-fall levels. The Sun itself continues its steady nuclear fusion at its core, but because our world is physically closer, the solar energy hitting every square meter of our sky has intensified dramatically. Down on the surface, the sky no longer looks like the welcoming blue canopy that cradled human civilization. It has transformed into a pale, brassy dome, a combination of increased water vapor, airborne dust, and altered Rayleigh scattering bleaches the deep blue hue. The Sun rests overhead with an apparent visual diameter 30% larger than normal, shining with a blinding glare. Through protective optical filters on high-powered telescopes, solar physicists can observe the raw, churning surface of the star in staggering detail. Dark, twisted sunspot complexes, some sprawling wider than Earth itself, creep across the solar disk, framed by glowing magnetic loops where superheated plasma arcs thousands of miles into space. Humanity no longer lives under the open air. Across both hemispheres, daytime activity has ceased. Cities that once hummed with afternoon traffic sit silent between dawn and dusk. People move through the dark, emerging from basements, subway stations, and underground shelters only during the brief reprieve of midnight. In an isolated underground bunker beneath the desert of New Mexico, a lone shortwave radio operator sits in the quiet, listening to static. The atmospheric interference is overwhelming now. She logs into her notebook, her voice quiet against the steady hum of battery packs. San Francisco went quiet 2 nights ago. London is silent. Every few hours, a faint, garbled voice comes through from somewhere across the ocean, asking if anyone is still receiving. Then the static takes them back. The planet's water systems are undergoing a severe thermal shift. Oceans do not boil instantly. The thermal mass of 320 million cubic miles of water creates vast thermal inertia. But the upper mixing layers are absorbing unprecedented thermal energy. Equatorial sea surface temperatures rise past 90 degrees Fahrenheit, triggering intense evaporation. Massive volumes of water vapor ascend daily into the troposphere. Because water vapor is a powerful greenhouse gas, this evaporation creates a positive feedback loop. The atmosphere traps more of Earth's own re-radiated thermal energy, accelerating global surface warming alongside direct solar heat. As this hot, moisture-laden air ascends, it drives severe atmospheric convection. Sprawling high-altitude storm systems form across mid-latitudes. Towering anvil clouds rise near 50,000 feet into the lower stratosphere, unleashing heavy downpours. Yet, because the air near the sun-baked ground is scorching, much of the rain evaporates back into steam before reaching the soil, creating dense, humid microclimates where unassisted human survival becomes impossible within minutes. Higher up, a more silent transformation unfolds in near-Earth space. The thermosphere. The thermosphere, the upper layer of our atmosphere, is absorbing extreme ultraviolet radiation from the star. As gas molecules heat up, the outer atmosphere expands outward like a warming balloon. This atmospheric expansion creates unexpected aerodynamic drag for satellites orbiting in low Earth orbit, between 100 and 1,000 miles above the surface. The International Space Station, along with hundreds of low-altitude imaging, weather, and communication satellites, finds itself plowing through trails of expanding gas atoms. Without fuel reserves to boost their orbits against the friction, these low-altitude spacecraft tumble out of alignment and re-enter the atmosphere, leaving brief, incandescent trails of burning metal across the high night sky. Far above them, however, navigation constellations like GPS, orbiting over 12,000 miles high in medium Earth orbit, remain in space, though their signals grow increasingly distorted by the ionized upper atmosphere. By the end of the fourth week, Earth is moving toward the Sun at a speed exceeding 80,000 miles an hour under continuous gravitational acceleration. The distance to the solar surface has dropped to roughly 65 million miles. At this proximity, solar tidal forces begin to interact measurably with the Earth-Moon system. Tides are driven by the difference in gravitational pull felt on the near side of a body compared to its far side. While the Moon remains Earth's primary tidal driver, the Sun's growing gravitational gradient amplifies global ocean tides. High tides push further inland, leaving low-lying coastal roads and docks unusually elevated under salt water that no longer recedes to historical baselines. In communities with access to deep groundwater or mountain aquifers, small populations maintain underground shelters powered by surviving geothermal and nuclear infrastructure. The surface world is surrendered to the heat. Dried by weeks of unrelenting radiation, dead vegetation across temperate zones ignites from stray lightning strikes, filling the pale sky with plumes of ash. The air is thick, the water is steaming, and the energy striking our planet grows heavier with every passing hour. The calendar on the shelter wall still measures time in days. Physics no longer cares. The atmosphere dissolves. Inside the deep bedrock shelters of northern Europe, 4 miles beneath the surface, the silence is broken only by the low vibration of air-scrubbing generators. A small team of geologists and engineers monitors digital sensors wired to the surface world. Outside their thick, reinforced access doors, the surface temperature has breached 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Sensors on the mountain above show that the air pressure is beginning to fluctuate wildly, and the atmospheric composition is changing hour by hour. "We are no longer looking at an Earth climate," one engineer notes, writing by the dim red glow of emergency monitors. "We are watching an atmosphere transform in real time. The surface above us has become an unbreathable thermal chamber. By the 5th week, Earth crosses a critical astronomical boundary. The distance to the Sun has closed to roughly 58 million miles, nearing the average orbital plane of Venus. Solar radiation striking our upper atmosphere is now roughly 2.5 times its historical average. The planet is plunging at a speed exceeding 95,000 miles an hour, accelerated by a solar gravitational field that grows stronger as the distance shrinks according to the inverse square law. Viewed through specialized optical filters, the Sun fills nearly 1.5 degrees of the sky, 3 times its familiar visual size from Earth. Around its perimeter, the solar corona becomes visible, a glowing atmosphere of superheated plasma extending millions of miles into space. Prominences, loops of glowing gas held by powerful magnetic fields, arch off the solar edge like massive ribbons of white fire. On the ground, environmental systems are fracturing. In shallow inland seas and lakes, water temperatures reach extreme levels. The Great Lakes of North America and the Mediterranean Sea lose immense volume to rapid evaporation. White banks of water vapor billow miles into the air, merging into a dense global cloud deck that wraps the planet in a reflective mantle of mist. From deep space, Earth no longer displays its clear blue oceans and brown continents. It looks like a bright, featureless sphere, bouncing harsh sunlight back into the void. Underneath that cloud cover, the environment is stifling. High atmospheric humidity prevents any living organism from shedding heat through cooling. The polar ice sheets, built over hundreds of thousands of years, undergo rapid, unrelenting melting. Trillions of tons of glacial meltwater pour into ocean basins, raising sea levels by dozens of feet and submerging abandoned coastal infrastructure beneath murky water. High above the clouds, a fraction of the atmosphere begins leaking into space. Earth's gravity holds onto its air because gas molecules at normal temperatures move slower than the planet's escape velocity, roughly 7 miles per second. But heat is a measurement of molecular speed. As the exosphere absorbs energetic solar radiation, light gas atoms like hydrogen reach thermal velocities that allow them to overcome Earth's gravitational hold. Through this process, known as thermal atmospheric escape, water vapor high in the stratosphere is broken apart by ultraviolet radiation into hydrogen and oxygen. The lighter hydrogen atoms absorb thermal energy and escape into the vacuum, potentially forming a faint, streaming tail of gas behind Earth as it plunges through space. By day 50, Earth is less than 25 million miles from the solar surface, traveling at nearly 140,000 miles an hour. The Sun now dominates the sky, spanning 4 times its normal diameter. Occasionally, a massive coronal mass ejection, a burst of solar wind and magnetic fields, erupts from the star and strikes our planet. When these energetic particle streams hit Earth's magnetic field, they severely compress the magnetosphere on the sunward side. The sky, even beneath the dense cloud layer, lights up with continuous auroras. Deep greens and vivid crimsons dance across the mist, day and night. Geomagnetic induction surges through surviving ground cables, frying unshielded electrical circuits and silencing automated radio beacons across the globe. Down in deep bedrock shelters, the rock itself begins to warm. Thermal energy absorbed by the crust over weeks of intense radiation is conducting slowly downward through the soil. The deep underground, once a cold refuge, grows warm. On the surface, the air is thin, hot, and heavy with water vapor. The oceans have retreated into warm, highly saline inland basins, surrounded by vast, salt-crusted flats. Earth is no longer a world of life and seasons. It is a scorched sphere of rock and cloud, falling through the deep gravitational well of its star. 14 days remain before the surface meets the solar atmosphere. The speed of the fall is accelerating, and the white-hot face of the Sun fills the horizon ahead, the outer atmosphere. By the 8th week of the descent, the concept of a normal planetary environment has ceased to exist. Earth has crossed into the inner reaches of the solar system, dropping past the average orbital plane of Mercury. The gap between our world and the solar surface, has closed to roughly 15 million miles. Striking the upper atmosphere with over 35 times its historical intensity, solar flux turns the sunward side of the planet into a blinding white glare. Down on the surface, the dense cloud deck that previously shielded the ground begins to thin and dissipate. Under normal conditions, clouds persist through a continuous cycle of condensation and evaporation. But as the troposphere reaches extreme thermal thresholds, liquid water droplets can no longer condense. The water vapor remains locked in an invisible, superheated, gaseous state. The global mantle of cloud cover clears, exposing the scorched, dry surface of the Earth directly to the face of the Sun. Through quartz viewports in heavy underground bunkers, the Sun no longer appears as a discrete circle hovering in the sky. It fills a massive portion of the horizon, an endless, churning wall of incandescent plasma spanning the view from edge to edge. The Sun's outer atmosphere, the corona, now surrounds the Earth. The corona is a vast halo of superheated ions extending millions of miles into space. Under normal conditions, human eyes can only glimpse this faint glow during a total solar eclipse. Now, as Earth plunges directly through this region, the sky glows day and night with a pale, pearlescent light. Inside the corona, temperatures exceed 1 million degrees Fahrenheit. However, because the gas in the corona is ultra-low density, containing fewer particles per cubic meter than the best artificial vacuums created in laboratories on Earth, it does not instantly incinerate the planet through direct thermal conduction. Instead, the primary driver of planetary warming remains the sheer volume of radiative energy pouring off the solar surface below. High above the ground, Earth's magnetosphere, the protective magnetic shield generated by the liquid iron core, enters its terminal struggle. The Sun emits a dense, continuous stream of energetic charged particles known as the solar wind. At this close range, the density and pressure of the solar wind increase dramatically. Compressed by the force of this solar gale, Earth's sunward magnetic boundary is shoved inward, forcing energetic protons and electrons directly into the upper atmosphere. Auroras no longer dance exclusively near the polar regions. The entire global sky ignites in continuous sheets of crimson, violet, and electric white light. These intense geomagnetic currents induce heavy electrical surges through the Earth's crust. Deep underground, remaining wired communications and unshielded copper lines burst into sparks, severing the final wired connections between subterranean shelters. In a deep geological sanctuary beneath the Scandinavian mountains, a geologist watches a digital sensor log its final readings. The bedrock itself is conducting thermal energy inward now. She writes in her journal using a pencil, her hand steady despite the heavy heat inside the room. Most of the surface oceans have fully evaporated. What remains above us is a dry, glowing floor of exposed basalt and salt deposits. The surface is quiet. Her observation reflects the state of the planet. The vast ocean basins, the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian, have emptied. Massive volumes of water have evaporated into the high atmosphere, where intense solar ultraviolet radiation continuously breaks heatier molecules apart into hydrogen and oxygen. The lighter hydrogen gas can form a faint, streaming tail that trails behind Earth across millions of miles of vacuum. The heavier oxygen remains behind for a time, reacting with exposed surface rocks and burning organic debris, oxidizing dry seabeds into shades of deep rust. Only a few days remain before Earth reaches the photosphere, the visible surface of the Sun. The planet is now traveling at a speed exceeding 200,000 miles an hour, drawn inward by a gravitational acceleration that grows continuously stronger with every lost mile. The world is stripped bare. Its atmosphere is leaking into the vacuum. Its oceans are scattered across space, and the white-hot face of the star fills the view ahead. The clock has nearly run out, leaving only the quiet rhythm of the descent, the final threshold. On the 64th day, the descent reaches its absolute mathematical conclusion. Earth is moving through space at nearly 240,000 miles an hour, over 3 times its original orbital speed. At this velocity, our planet covers the final million miles of its journey in a matter of hours. The Sun no longer sits above the planet. It is the environment. A churning ocean of superheated hydrogen and helium plasma extends infinitely in every direction. Down in the deepest granite shelters, miles beneath the surface, the physical limit of human survival is reached. Even through miles of solid rock, thermal conduction has raised the internal temperature of the deep bunkers past sustainable limits. The air is dry, scorching, and still. The last sensors on the surface melt, their components vaporizing into gas. The final records of human observation end not with a dramatic declaration, but with a sudden, quiet drop into silence as the monitoring instruments cease to function. Up on the surface, the planet undergoes rapid thermal and mechanical destruction as it enters the dense lower layers of the solar atmosphere. Earth does not break apart from the Roche limit, as the Sun's tidal destruction boundary for a dense rocky planet lies deep near or within the solar interior. Instead, destruction is driven by extreme radiative heating, intense ram pressure interaction with the dense solar plasma, and catastrophic surface vaporization. Deep geological fissures open across continents and dry ocean beds, driven by massive thermal stress and shifting internal pressure. Magma does not merely erupt from volcanoes, the mantle itself turns molten from the extreme surface heat. The surface of the Earth dissolves into a global sea of liquid rock. Mountains buckle and collapse into glowing lava lakes. From space, the Earth appears as a fractured, glowing orb of molten stone, dripping trails of vaporized silicate into the solar gale. AS Earth penetrates the outer boundaries of the lower corona and approaches the photosphere. The intense interaction with the dense solar plasma strips the remaining atmosphere off the planet like a discarded veil. The gas is swept backward into space, leaving the molten surface exposed directly to the full intensity of the solar surface. At an altitude near the photosphere, where temperatures sit around 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, silicate rocks, iron, nickel, and heavy metals. The fundamental building blocks of our planet cannot exist as solids or liquids. The exposed molten surface begins to rapidly vaporize into gas. Rivers of iron and silicon boil off the planet, turning the remaining mass of the Earth into an expanding cloud of metallic vapor. The core of our world, the heavy sphere of nickel and iron that generated Earth's magnetic field for 4.5 billion years, is rapidly overwhelmed. As it plunges into the solar atmosphere, extreme thermal energy and intense plasma bombardment dissolve the metal structure completely. The iron atoms that once formed the core of our planet mix with the hydrogen and helium plasma of the star. Every mountain that ever stood, every drop of water that ever flowed through an ocean, and every atom that ever made up a human being is reduced to its constituent elements, dispersed evenly throughout the outer layer of the Sun. Out in the cold expanse of deep space, 93 million miles away, the solar system remains undisturbed. The Moon, stripped of its earthly anchor, is not violently flung into the deep void. Instead, it continues to orbit the Sun independently on a heliocentric path, very similar to Earth's former orbit, drifting silently through space as a cratered monument to the world it once circled. The outer planets, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, continue their slow, majestic loops around the central fire, completely indifferent to the loss of their inner neighbor. The Sun shines with the same steady, brilliant light it has emitted for billions of years. Its light streams outward across the vacuum, illuminating the quiet space where a small blue marble once completed its endless sideways fall. The journey is complete. The planet has returned to the star that gave it birth, and the cosmos rests in absolute, peaceful stillness. The quiet aftermath. Close your eyes and let the noise of the waking world fade completely away. Imagine standing in the vast expanse of the inner solar system, floating high above the orbital plane where the planets have glided for billions of years. Out here, far removed from the turbulent motion of atmospheres and oceans, there is no wind, no burning heat, and no sound. There is only the endless, cold vacuum of deep space, stretching out in every direction toward the soft, unwavering light of millions of distant stars. 93 million miles from the quiet space where Earth once completed its annual circuit, the sun continues its ancient, unhurried rhythm. It shines with the same steady, golden light it has emitted for over 4 billion years. At this distance, the solar surface looks smooth and serene, a gentle sphere of white fire resting against the obsidian velvet of space. There are no dramatic disruptions, no lasting scars, and no permanent traces carved into its luminous face. The star continues its work, generating energy deep within its core through the steady fusion of hydrogen into helium, quietly broadcasting its warmth out into the darkness. The matter that once formed our mountains, our oceans, and our skies has now merged into the outer layers of solar plasma. In physics, nothing in the universe is ever truly lost. Energy and matter cannot be destroyed. They merely change their forms and reorganize their arrangements across space and time. The iron from Earth's deep core, the oxygen from our ancient atmosphere, the silicon from our granite continents, and the hydrogen from our oceans have simply returned to the vast cosmic reservoir from which they were born eons ago. These elements do not sit completely at rest, for the sun is a dynamic, living star filled with continuous motion. Instead, the atoms mix gently into the superheated plasma of the outer solar layers, flowing along magnetic field lines and rising and falling in vast, slow convective currents. They move not with violence, but with a fluid, continuous grace, rejoined with the fundamental material of the solar system. Farther out in the dark, where the airless silence is absolute, the moon continues its slow, majestic journey. Stripped of its planetary companion, the moon was not violently flung into the deep void, nor did it tumble into the fire. Instead, governed by the precise geometry of gravity, it now circles the sun on its own independent heliocentric path. It drifts through space, a pale silver sphere of ancient dust and cratered rock, following an orbit almost identical to the path Earth once traveled. As sunlight reflects softly off its cold surface, the moon serves as a quiet, timeless monument to the world it accompanied for over 4 billion years. It moves through the dark without effort, gliding along its curved path through space-time in perfect, unhurried isolation. Take a slow, deep breath and feel the steady rhythm of the universe around you. The solar system does not rush, nor does it grieve. Gravity continues to shape space-time in smooth, invisible curves. The cosmic clockwork moves forward with absolute grace, unhurried by human clocks and unbound by human anxiety. The vast emptiness between the stars remains vast and open. The extreme temperatures of the plunge have given way to a steady cosmic balance, where energy flows outward in long, silent waves, dispersing quietly into the cold expanse of the interstellar medium. As you float here in this quiet mental space, consider how vast and stable the architecture of the cosmos truly is. Our solar system is just one of more than 100 billion star systems in the Milky Way galaxy. The galaxy itself is a giant, spiraling wheel of light, turning slowly in the dark once every 200 million years. Within this immense structure, stars are born inside cool, dark clouds of dust and gas. They shine for millions or billions of years, creating heavy elements within their cores, and eventually give those elements back to the space around them so new stars and new worlds can form. Every atom in your body, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the carbon in your DNA, was forged inside the burning heart of an ancient star long before Earth ever existed. Those elements gathered together for a brief moment in cosmic time to form a living planet, the atmosphere, and the thoughts inside your mind. There is a deep comfort in realizing that we are not separate from the universe, looking in from the outside. We are a part of it, a way for the cosmos to think, to feel, and to wonder about itself. Out in the dark, a solar wind streams outward at hundreds of miles per second, carrying charged particles past the orbits of the remaining worlds. The light from the sun travels onward, crossing millions of miles of empty space every second, passing the cold rocks of the asteroid belt and reaching toward the outer realm of the gas giants. Everything moves according to natural law. Everything follows a clear, predictable path. There is no confusion in the motion of the heavens, no uncertainty in the equations of gravity, and no tension in the quiet vacuum of space. Let your breathing slow down to match the deep, unhurried pace of the cosmos. Feel the weightlessness of this quiet perspective. The questions that seemed so urgent during the light of day have become quiet. The calculations have reached their conclusion. The machinery of the universe does not require our effort to keep turning. It moves effortlessly on its own, holding every star, every planet, and every atom in a continuous, graceful path. Out in the cold expanse, the light of the sun shines softly against the dark, illuminating the quiet path where the moon continues its solitary silver journey. The space is vast, open, and still, waiting quietly as we turn our attention toward the outer reaches of the solar system, where the remaining worlds continue their eternal, silent dance. The eternal dance. If you look out across the wider solar system, the beauty of planetary motion continues in absolute, uninterrupted harmony. Farther out in the darkness, beyond the orbit of our former home, Mars glides along its cold, crimson path. Its dusty red valleys, ancient volcanoes, and frozen polar caps are bathed in the pale, soft warmth of distant sunlight. Mars moves through the dark at 54,000 miles an hour, held in its gentle elliptical loop by the same invisible geometry that holds every world in place. Beyond the asteroid belt, where millions of small rocky bodies drift in quiet rings, giant Jupiter spins slowly on its axis in the deep void. Jupiter is a world of immense scale, containing more mass than all the other planets combine. Its swirling bands of pale clouds, white storms, and dark red belts turn continuously in its upper atmosphere as it orbits the Sun once every 12 Earth years. Around it, a miniature solar system of over 90 moons completes a complex, elegant dance. Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto gliding through the gas giant's powerful gravitational pull in perfect mathematical resonance. Farther still into the deep dark, Saturn's delicate rings of ice and stone shimmer softly against the blackness of space. Trillions of tiny ice particles, ranging from microscopic dust grains to mountain-sized boulders, orbit Saturn in a flat, brilliant sheet less than a mile thick. They reflect pale glimmers of sunlight across millions of miles of empty space, moving in quiet, concentric circles around the golden gas giant. Saturn travels its long, slow path around the Sun, taking nearly 30 years to complete a single circuit through the constellations. In the dim, frozen reaches of the outer solar system, Uranus and Neptune rest in quiet solitude. These ice giants, glowing with soft shades of cyan and deep azure, move so slowly through the cold vacuum that a human lifetime would pass before they complete a single orbit around the star. Uranus rolls sideways along its orbital path, its pale ring system tilted almost perpendicular to the plane of the solar system. Neptune, swept by supersonic winds deep within its blue atmosphere, circles the Sun at a distance of nearly 3 billion miles, where sunlight is reduced to a bright, cold star hanging in a pitch-black noon sky. Every planet, every moon, every comet, and every drifting grain of cosmic dust remains bound by the same timeless physics, a continuous, effortless fall through curved space-time. On the scale of the cosmos, worlds are gathered from clouds of interstellar dust. They glide through the dark for billions of years, and eventually, they change form and return to the stars that birthed them. It is not a violent process, but a slow, endless cycle of cosmic renewal. A grand celestial dance that has been unfolding since the origin of time and will continue for billions of years into the future. As you float here in the quiet darkness, surrounded by the soft, distant glow of billions of galaxies, feel how calm and stable the cosmos truly is. The vacuum of space is not a cold or hostile void in this quiet moment. It is a timeless cradle, a place of absolute silence, natural order, and unyielding balance. The very same physical laws that guide the motion of giant gas planets and distant stars also govern the quiet, steady rhythm of your breathing. There is a profound peace and understanding that the universe is entirely self-sustaining. It does not demand our management, nor does it require our worry. The planets will continue their majestic orbits without interruption. The Sun will continue to fuse hydrogen in its core for another 5 billion years, illuminating the dark with its warm, steady light. The distant constellations, Orion, Ursa Major, Scorpius, and Cassiopeia, will keep their eternal watch over the quiet expanse, their light traveling across hundreds of light-years of space to reach the solar system. Let your thoughts release their hold on the day. Let go of the need to track time, to solve problems, or to look ahead to tomorrow. In the grand architecture of space, motion is effortless. Planets do not strain to stay in orbit. They simply follow the natural curvature of the space around them. They drift without friction, without resistance, and without fatigue, carried forward by the inertia they inherited at the dawn of the solar system. You can allow your mind to move in the same way. Let your consciousness drift gently along its own natural path, free from tension or effort. There are no remaining tasks to complete, no data left to analyze, and no uncertainties left to solve. The story of the falling world has reached its quiet completion, resolving into a state of balance and peace. The long journey through space and time has brought us back to where we began, to the fundamental truth of orbital motion. For over 4 billion years, Earth fell sideways around the Sun, held in a gentle, endless loop by the balance of velocity and gravity. Tonight, your mind can follow that same ancient pattern, drifting smoothly onward without resistance into deep, restorative rest. The light of the stars watches over the silent solar system. The moon glides peacefully along its silver path. The universe moves forward in its quiet, eternal dance, holding everything in a calm, timeless embrace. Sleep deeply, resting in the quiet stillness of the cosmos, the long silence. Close your eyes and let yourself drift even deeper into the vast, quiet expanse of time. Beyond the days, weeks, and years of human experience lies a much longer rhythm, the scale of deep cosmic time. Millions of years pass over the solar system like gentle waves across a quiet sea, leaving no disturbance in the cold vacuum of space. In this distant future, the inner solar system rests in a state of quiet balance. The Sun continues its steady, ancient work, drawing on its deep reservoir of nuclear fuel. In its core, 400 million tons of hydrogen are fused into helium every single second, releasing energy that travels slowly outward toward the surface over tens of thousands of years. When that energy finally escapes the photosphere, it streams into the dark as soft, pale light, traveling across millions of miles of empty space to illuminate the quiet paths of the remaining worlds. The Moon, floating along its independent orbit 93 million miles from the Sun, has become a cold, silver sanctuary of memory. Without an atmosphere to cause weathering or erosion, the Moon's ancient surface remains perfectly preserved in the vacuum. Its dark basaltic plains, the Maria, and its ancient impact craters reflect the sunlight just as they have for billions of years. It glides silently through space, an undisturbed monument of dust and stone, tracing its smooth elliptical loop around the central fire without deviation or decay. Farther out, the asteroid belt continues its quiet, endless rotation. Millions of rocky fragments, from tiny pebbles to vast, mountain-sized asteroids like Ceres and Vesta, drift through the space between Mars and Jupiter. They do not collide in violent chaos. Instead, they are separated by vast distances of empty space, often millions of miles apart. They travel along their individual paths in silent parallel streams, their dark metallic surfaces glinting softly whenever they catch the distant light of the Sun. Take a slow, deep breath and let your mind settle into this unhurried perspective. On the scale of deep time, the universe does not experience hurry or strain. There are no sudden alarms, no urgent deadlines, and no shifting pressures. Every physical process unfolds according to immutable, patient laws that have governed the cosmos since the dawn of creation. The thermal energy of the inner planets has long since radiated away into the vast cold of interstellar space. The emptiness between the worlds is dark, clean, and profoundly still. As you float in this quiet mental space, feel how light and weightless your thoughts can be. In the grand architecture of space, weight is merely a localized reaction to gravity on the surface of a world. Out here in the open vacuum, there is no up or down, no heavy load to carry, and no surface to push against. Everything floats in a state of freefall, a continuous, effortless state of balance where motion requires no energy and existence requires no struggle. The solar wind carries its soft stream of charged particles far past the orbits of Neptune and Pluto, reaching out toward the heliopause, the distant boundary where the Sun's influence meets the cold winds of interstellar space. Beyond that boundary lies the local interstellar cloud, a gentle, diffuse region of hydrogen and helium gas, through which our entire solar system glides as it completes its great 200 million-year orbit around the center of the Milky Way galaxy. Everything is connected in a continuous, quiet flow. The star, the drifting moon, the distant ice giants, and the interstellar winds all move together as part of a single, majestic system. There is nothing you need to hold on to, nothing you need to fix, and nowhere else you need to be. The long silence of space is not empty. It is a peaceful, protective blanket that wraps around the entire solar system, holding every atom in a state of quiet, unyielding safety. Let the slow, steady beat of your heart align with the calm, patient pace of deep time as the solar system glides peacefully through the starry dark, the horizon of starlight. In this final chapter of our journey, we step back even further, looking out at the universe from the quiet edge of the infinite. The solar system is not alone in the dark. It is one small golden island of light among hundreds of billions of star systems that make up our home galaxy, the Milky Way. If you could view the galaxy from high above its disk, it would look like a vast, glowing wheel of soft white light, with long, delicate spiral arms curving gracefully out from a bright central core. These spiral arms are filled with vast nebulae, quiet, colorful clouds of gas and dust, where new stars are slowly taking shape across millions of years. In those interstellar nurseries, gravity is gently drawing cold hydrogen atoms together, slowly building the suns and worlds of far future millennia. It is a process that happens without sound or fury, a slow, majestic gathering of matter that takes place in absolute silence across trillions of miles of open space. The universe is endlessly creative, yet completely unhurried, taking eons to sculpt a single star system from the quiet dust of space. Around those distant suns, new planets are completing their own sideways falls through curved space-time. In far-off star systems across the galaxy, blue water worlds, frozen ice moons, and giant gas planets glide along their orbital paths, held in steady balance by the same natural laws that Sir Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein described. The geometry of space-time is universal. A consistent, beautiful framework that anchors every corner of the cosmos in order and balance. Look up toward the distant constellations hanging in the deep black sky around you. The light from those stars has traveled for decades, centuries, or thousands of years across the cold vacuum to reach this point in space. By the time that light arrives, it is soft, gentle, and faint. A quiet greeting sent across unimaginable distances of space and time. Star systems live out their long, peaceful lives, shining steadily in the dark, passing through their natural cycles of birth, evolution, and quiet return. Everything in the universe follows this gentle, recurring arc. Nothing is ever lost. Everything is transformed, renewed, and carried forward into the infinite future. Feel the deep restorative peace of this ultimate realization. You are resting in a universe that is vast, ancient, and completely secure. The same forces that hold giant galaxies together in their slow, majestic dances are quietly maintaining the balance of every atom within you. You do not need to effort, to plan, or to strive. The cosmos carries you effortlessly forward through time, just as it carries every star, planet, and moon through the quiet void. The journey through the story of our world has reached its absolute peaceful completion. The falling planet has found its rest within the star. The moon glides silently along its silver path through the dark. The sun shines with a steady, comforting glow, sending its warm light out into the quiet emptiness of space. The night around you is vast, cool, and dark. The stars shine with an eternal, gentle light that has watched over the cosmos for billions of years and will continue to watch over it for billions more. Allow your mind to rest completely now. Surrender to the weightless, floating sensation of deep space. Let your consciousness dissolve into the quiet, warm darkness held in the timeless embrace of the universe. The story is finished. The cosmos is still. Sleep deeply, cradled in the eternal starlight. The galactic ocean. Close your eyes and allow your consciousness to expand beyond the borders of our immediate solar neighborhood. We are leaving behind the familiar inner realm of the sun and stepping out into the vast, open spaces of the interstellar medium. The true galactic ocean that cradles every star system in existence. Out here, the distance between celestial bodies is measured not in miles or astronomical units, but in light years. The immense distance that light travels through the vacuum of space in a single year, covering nearly 6 trillion miles. To perceive the universe on this scale requires setting aside the frantic, minute-by-minute rhythm of everyday human life. Out here in the galactic deep, time moves with incredible patience. A century is merely a fleeting second. 1,000,000 years is but a quiet afternoon. Imagine floating weightlessly in this vast interstellar void, suspended halfway between our Sun and Alpha Centauri, the nearest neighboring star system 4 light-years away. Looking back toward our home system, the Sun no longer fills the sky as a blazing furnace. At a distance of several light-years, the Sun has transformed into a single, beautiful point of steady white light, a serene golden beacon shining among thousands of other stars against the pitch-black velvet of space. There is no sign of destruction, no lingering smoke, and no cosmic disturbance visible on this scale. The entire tragedy and transformation of a planet falling into its star vanishes into the overwhelming, peaceful vastness of space. The interstellar medium through which we float is not an absolute void, though it is far cleaner and sparser than any vacuum humanity could ever create in a laboratory on Earth. On average, a single cubic centimeter of interstellar space contains only about one single atom of gas, mostly hydrogen, with a small fraction of helium and microscopic specks of cosmic dust composed of carbon, silicon, and iron. These lone atoms drift quietly across light years, separated by vast stretches of empty space, untouched by radiation for thousands of years at a time. Occasionally, over millions of years, these sparse hydrogen atoms gather into vast, diffuse clouds known as interstellar gas clouds or local interstellar chimneys. Our Sun, along with its remaining family of planets and the solitary Moon, is currently drifting through a region known as the local interstellar cloud. A gentle, warm cloud of hydrogen and helium gas spanning roughly 30 light-years across. The Sun moves through this cosmic cloud at a leisurely pace of 15 miles per second, its solar wind carving out a protective bubble in the gas called the heliosphere. Take a slow, quiet breath and feel the weightlessness of this infinite expanse. As the solar wind pushes against the surrounding interstellar gas, it creates a gentle boundary known as the heliopause, a quiet cosmic shore located roughly 11 billion miles from the Sun. Beyond this boundary, the direct influence of the Sun gives way to the broader galactic environment. Out here, cosmic rays, energetic particles accelerated by distant, ancient supernova explosions millions of years ago, travel quietly through space, carrying the history of long-dead stars across the galaxy. The Milky Way galaxy itself is a colossal, self-contained island of stars, gas, and dark matter, spanning over 100,000 light-years from edge to edge. It contains between 100 billion and 400 billion stars, each moving in its own quiet, majestic orbit around the supermassive black hole at the galactic center, known as Sagittarius, Ra. Our Sun, situated in the Orion Cygnus arm about 27,000 light-years from the center, completes one full orbit around the galaxy every 230 million years. This immense period of time is known as a galactic year. Think of how many galactic years have passed since the universe began. When our solar system was first born out of a collapsing cloud of gas and dust 4.5 billion years ago, the galaxy was already ancient. Over the 20 galactic years that Earth existed, continents shifted, oceans formed, life emerged, and countless generations of living beings looked up at the night sky in wonder. And now, as Earth's matter has returned to the Sun, the solar system continues its 21st galactic circuit around the Milky Way, completely unhurried, perfectly balanced, and endlessly serene. As you drift deeper into this cosmic perspective, notice how quiet and stable the galactic ocean truly is. Stars do not collide violently as they orbit the galaxy. Because the distances between stars are so enormous compared to their physical sizes, two galaxies can pass directly through one another over hundreds of millions of years without a single pair of stars ever physically crashing into each other. They simply slide past one another like ghost ships in the night, their paths gently reshaped by the smooth, invisible hands of gravity. In the regions between the spiral arms of the galaxy lie vast dark nebulae, quiet, cold clouds of molecular hydrogen where temperatures drop to just a few degrees above absolute zero. Inside these dark clouds, there is no light, no warmth, and no disturbance. They sit in deep thermal slumber for tens of millions of years, waiting for a gentle gravitational shockwave from a distant star to spark the birth of a new stellar generation. inside these cold cradles, atoms of carbon, oxygen, and iron, the very same elements that once built living worlds, settle onto microscopic dust grains, waiting for the far future when they will be drawn together to form new suns, new planets, and new horizons. Everything in the galactic ocean is part of this continuous, unhurried circulation of matter and energy. The universe is not wasteful. The atoms that made up our oceans and atmosphere were forged inside giant red stars billions of years ago, scattered into the interstellar medium by stellar winds, gathered into the solar nebula, shaped into a blue planet, and have now returned to the star. In a few billion years, when the sun reaches the end of its life, it will gently shed its outer layers into space, creating a glowing, beautiful planetary nebula that will enrich the interstellar medium with carbon and oxygen once again. Feel the profound comfort of being part of an endless, indestructible cosmic cycle. You are made of the very same stardust that fills the galactic arms. The iron in your veins, the calcium in your bones, and the atoms that allow you to dream were formed in the hearts of ancient stars and will continue to exist long after our sun has completed its journey. In the vast architecture of the galaxy, nothing is ever truly lost. Everything is preserved, transformed, and cradled in the eternal embrace of physics. Let your thoughts sink into the deep, cool quiet of interstellar space. There are no demands out here, no noise, and no time to keep. The stars shine with a steady, ancient light that has traveled for centuries to reach this quiet moment. The galactic arms turn slowly in the dark, carrying billions of worlds along their peaceful, curved paths. Allow yourself to float weightlessly in this vast galactic ocean, resting peacefully as the silent wheel of the Milky Way turns slowly through the deep cosmic night, the architecture of infinity. In this final, deepest chapter of our journey, we step beyond the edge of our galaxy to contemplate the ultimate architecture of the cosmos, the grand cosmic web that spans the observable universe. Imagine rising far above the plane of the Milky Way, watching our home galaxy shrink into a soft, glowing spiral of pale silver light. As we move farther out into the intergalactic void, millions of other galaxies come into view. Andromeda, our nearest large neighbor, shines 2.5 million light-years away. A magnificent wheel of 1 trillion stars gliding quietly through space on a gentle gravitational course toward our own galaxy. Farther still, across tens of millions of light-years, galaxies gather in quiet, gravitationally bound communities called galaxy clusters. Our Milky Way belongs to the local group, a collection of over 50 galaxies, including Andromeda, the Triangulum galaxy, and dozens of smaller dwarf galaxies. Together, the local group drifts peacefully through space, bound together by the subtle, invisible threads of gravity, forming a quiet island of light in the vast intergalactic ocean. Looking out across hundreds of millions of light-years, the universe reveals its grandest structural secret, the cosmic web. Galaxies and galaxy clusters are not scattered randomly throughout space. Instead, governed by the attraction of dark matter and the expansion of space-time, they align along vast, glowing filaments of light that span the entire observable universe. These filaments intersect at giant nodes where thousands of galaxies congregate, separated by enormous dark regions called cosmic voids, vast expanses of empty space tens of millions of light-years across where almost no galaxies exist. From this ultimate perspective, the entire universe looks like a vast, delicate neural network or a spiderweb of pure starlight glowing softly against the infinite blackness. Inside those filaments, trillions of galaxies house quadrillions of stars, and around those stars, uncounted worlds complete their endless, silent orbits through curved space-time. The same physical laws that governed Earth's fall into the sun The laws of gravitation, thermodynamics, and special relativity apply everywhere across this vast network, operating with absolute consistency across billions of light years. Take a slow, deep, relaxing breath and surrender to the immense peace of this grand cosmic order. There is a profound beauty in the absolute predictability and stability of the universe on this scale. The cosmic web does not experience chaos or uncertainty. It moves according to mathematical principles that are elegant, symmetrical, and timeless. Space expands smoothly. Galaxies drift along their predetermined gravitational paths, and stars shine steadily as nuclear engines convert mass directly into light. Think of the sheer abundance of existence across the cosmos. In the observable universe alone, there are estimated to be over 2 trillion galaxies. Each galaxy contains hundreds of billions of stars, and almost every star hosts its own system of planets. Across this infinite sea of worlds, every conceivable variation of nature exists. Rocky worlds with liquid methane lakes, gas giants with rings of diamond dust, water worlds covered in global oceans miles deep, and airless moons drifting quietly around ancient red dwarf stars. Yet, despite this unimaginable variety and scale, every single world is bound by the same quiet truth we discovered at the beginning of our story. Every world stays in its place by falling sideways through curved space-time. Gravity is not a harsh warden or a destructive force. It is the gentle geometry of the universe itself. It is the framework that allows gas clouds to gather into stars, stars to hold planets in warm orbits, and galaxies to swirl in beautiful, eternal loops. It is the force that gives structure to space and rhythm to time. As we rest here at the edge of the cosmic web, looking out across the infinite tapestry of starlight, feel how calm, quiet, and welcoming the universe truly is. The intergalactic void is completely silent. There is no sound to disturb your rest, no light too harsh for your eyes, and no pressure to bear. It is an environment of absolute stillness and perfect equilibrium, where time stretches out into infinity without beginning or end. In this quiet space, realize that the story of Earth was not a tragedy, but a single, delicate note in a vast, endless cosmic symphony. The planet was born from the dust of ancient stars, carried life and consciousness for a brief moment in time, and then peacefully dissolved back into the stellar furnace from which its materials came. Its iron, carbon, and oxygen will continue to exist forever, circulating through the sun, eventually escaping into the interstellar medium, and one day becoming part of new stars, new planets, and new skies in galaxies yet unborn. Nothing is ever lost in the architecture of infinity. Every atom is remembered by the laws of physics. Every bit of energy is preserved, and every moment that ever occurred remains permanently written into the fabric of space-time. Feel the heavy, relaxing warmth of deep, dreamless rest washing over your body. Your mind is completely free now, unbound by the small worries of the day, unhurried by the tick of the clock, and unbothered by the passage of time. You are floating weightlessly in the center of an infinite, peaceful universe that has cared for every atom in existence for 14 billion years, and will continue to do so for eternity. The great cosmic web glows softly around you, a vast canopy of light guiding your mind into deep, uninterrupted sleep. The galaxies turn in their slow, silent loops. The stars shine with a warm, steady glow. The universe moves forward in its eternal, beautiful dance, cradling you in absolute, unyielding peace. Close your eyes completely now. The long journey across space and time is complete. The cosmos is still, the darkness is soft, and the starlight is eternal. Sleep deeply, resting peacefully in the heart of the universe.